Picture this. Paul Simon, quiet, composed, a poet with a guitar, steps into a room that already reverberates with myth. Across the way stands Bob Dylan, the high priest of folk, enigmatic and aloof. What began as reverence would soon unravel into resentment. In the early 1960s, Simon looked up to Dylan like a disciple. He dissected his lyrics, mimicked his cadence, even chased his elusive lyrical style. But when they finally met, the pedestal cracked. Dylan wasn't warm. He wasn't even cordial. He was indifferent, borderline condescending. At a party, Simon overheard Dylan mutter, "Too clever," in reference to him. A casual dismissal, but one that seared. Simon left that night not just bruised, but hollowed out. Dylan wasn't the artistic comrade he had imagined. He was competition, an unreachable enigma. What followed was a cold war of jabs and jests. Simon publicly mocked Dylan's nasal mumbling, even crafting parody in song. Dylan, for his part, reduced Simon's lyrics to neat puzzles, sterile and bloodless. Their rivalry wasn't tabloid-level dramatic. It was artistic. Paul didn't hate Bob for his success. He hated that he once needed Bob's validation to feel whole. To Simon, Dylan's mystique was artifice. A shadow with a harmonica, he allegedly told a friend. That phrase didn't just sum up his disappointment. It marked the point where admiration curdled into contempt. Their feud wasn't a shout across a canyon. It was a whisper behind a locked door. If Dylan represented disillusionment, then Lou Reed was pure ideological opposition. Reed was the king of raw, detached anti-melody, anti-structure, die. Where Simon labored over precision and polish, Reed flaunted chaos like a badge. Their brief time under the same record label was described by insiders as glacial. Every meeting was a clash of worlds. Lou would slump in with his sunglasses on, arms crossed, emanating disdain. Paul once described Reed's demeanor as aggressively hollow, a man performing apathy rather than feeling it. Their few encounters were riddled with friction, but not in ways that exploded. Instead, Reed would interrupt Simon mid-sentence or turn his back mid-conversation. Simon didn't shout or confront. He just remembered and never forgave. Then there was Sting. Unlike Reed's grunge, Sting embodied sheen. Intellectual, practiced, perfect. Sting was frequently compared to Simon, two lyrical craftsmen from different generations. But Paul didn't see a peer in Sting. He saw a performance. He once said, "Sting sings like he's solving a riddle for applause." At a gala in 22, Sting tried to break the ice with a joke on stage. Two poets, one mic. Paul smiled, but his eyes were ice. He declined any future collaborations the next day. It wasn't jealousy. It was rejection of what Sting symbolized. Polish without pain, drama without depth. Simon believed real music carried bruises. Sting's style felt like a Broadway monologue dressed as soul. That difference was more than aesthetic. It was personal. They never spoke again. Ed Sheeran was a rising star when he first name-dropped Paul Simon. On paper, it should have been a compliment. For Simon, it wasn't. It was appropriation. Simon respected the grind. Tiny clubs, sleepless nights, songs written in dim apartments. But when he listened to Sheeran's early work, he heard something else. Mimicry without mourning. "It's Simon and Garfunkel without the pain," he reportedly said. At first he shrugged it off. Every generation borrows. But when Sheeran began to cite Simon as a direct influence, almost as branding, Paul recoiled. It wasn't reverence. It was marketing. He told his team to block joint interviews, to skip festivals where Sheeran performed. "I'm not his compass," he muttered under his breath. Then came Madonna. She represented another kind of offense, glamour without grounding. Paul once accused her, privately, of selling rebellion like soda pop. To him, she wasn't an artist, she was a product. Their only face-to-face came at a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony. Madonna approached, radiant and rehearsed. She shook his hand. Cameras flashed. But Paul didn't smile with his eyes. "What'd you talk about?" someone asked later. "Nothing," Paul said. And that was the most honest part of it. Madonna, to him, was artistry turned ad campaign. Her evolution wasn't personal, it was strategic. In her, Simon saw not just an artist he couldn't connect with, but a warning, a symbol of what music becomes when truth is replaced by spectacle. But of all the names that lived in Simon's silent registry, none cast a longer shadow than Art Garfunkel. The friend, the brother thought, the echo in harmony. Their voices were inseparable in the public imagination. But off stage, tension ruled. Control, ego, distance. Each reunion was more brittle than the last. What once was instinctual now felt like negotiation. Simon didn't hate Art's talent. He hated what it reminded him of: lost time, splintered trust, and the decay of something sacred. Garfunkel's solo pursuits felt like betrayal. Not because he sought success, but because he sought it without Paul. There were dinners where no words were exchanged. Photo shoots where they stood in the same frame but felt miles apart. Paul once saw Art smile on stage and whispered to a friend, "Is that smile for me or the crowd?" He missed the boy he sang with in stairwells, the teenager who believed music could fix anything. But that boy was gone, replaced by silence, years of it. And that silence hurt more than any insult. In one unguarded interview, Paul said, "I loved Art like a brother, and like all brothers, I hated him too. But under the hate lived grief. Grief for a bond music created but couldn't sustain." For Paul, it wasn't just about harmony lost. It was about the absence of something eternal. Their silence wasn't petty, it was profound. A reminder that the deepest wounds don't come from strangers. They come from someone who once harmonized with your soul.